Okay, welcome to Facebook Live, and thanks for joining us today. Really glad to have you. We're very excited. We've got a great show today. So the first thing we're going to remind you is remember the two most valuable things you will ever possess are your ideas and your time. And I know we keep going over that, but that's really important because they're the two most valuable. So it's the ideas that you have and the time you have to carry them out. So let's carry out some great ideas. That's why right now is the best time ever, because you have time, right, or you're stuck inside, to pick up these great ideas. So when you get back to that pool, you can employ them and keep working on them. So let's get some ideas so we go back in, we'll get better than ever and much faster. Okay, let's see. So now what we're going to do is we're going to feed that developmental pipeline. So we're going to do step one again today is we're going to learn something new, something hopefully that you didn't know before, right? So we want to get that information, then you can start to fix it, right? Start to correct what you've been doing, and then you can go back to the pool once that pool opens, and you can start to cement it, doing it over and over again. Now, while you learn this process, is a global understanding of development. This isn't just for swimming. This is for anything you want to do in life. So it's really very, very valuable to understand how to develop and progress. Right? This comes from our program in the FM Brain, right? In our MindWorks program, to feed that pipeline and develop in anything you want to do in life. Whether you can become a doctor, a musician, right? Whatever it is that you do, an accountant, you want to learn it, fix it, cement it, and then use it. Okay, so we're going to go over here, and today I've got three great recommendations for a topic on the Discovery Center. So first of all, number one, go to fluidmechanics.net, right? And then you go to online training, so FM online training, and then click on the FM Discovery Center. And there you're going to find a search bar. You want to search for these three topics. Number one, good versus great. They're not similar. They're opposite. It's going to tell you all about that. It's fantastic. Really change the way you think of becoming and doing something very, very different and great in life versus being just kind of good at what you do. Then Doc Councilman's information on the 3 C's of learning. Really interesting, fantastic knowledge that he gave all of his swimmers in the past. And it was really great. So you'll love that too. And then bricks on the wall to show you how to progress. And again, all these three will help you a lot. So again, good versus great, the 3 C's of learning, and bricks on the wall. Watch them all. Now, we're going to orient ourselves. Today, we're going in and we're digging in and we're going to dive right into the water in water training. Learn how to train and get more out of your coach's workout. So when he puts a workout on the board, right, you're going to want to dig more out of that workout. Find out. So if you know what you're doing, you can take whatever workout they put on and you can get so much more out of it than just going back and forth in the pool doing what, hey, this is what I want you to do. Okay, coach, off you go. This way you'll have insight into what's being put up there, why it's being put up there, and how to get the most out of it. Okay, so here we go. We're jumping into energy systems. This avatar here is called Oxygen. I know, a little hokey. Here we go. Let's jump right in. Okay, so today's presentation, as I mentioned, is what we call energy systems. It's on in-water training when you're practicing in your coach's workout, right? So we're going to learn about your energy systems themselves. What are those systems? And understand them better. Then after that, we're going to find out how to break down the season into its phases. So you'll know as those phases come up what to focus on. Nobody will have to tell you. You'll know it, right? And then you'll know about the right way to train. So these 3 major things, and we also have some great specials for you today. We've got 2 great specials as we're going along. Ready? In we go. So when I say great specials, you know what to do. Get ready to do an email. So, right, so when I announce them, you want to do an email right away, and they're going to carry that out. So here it is, in-water training. You see that he's taking his heart rate there, or she is. She's taking her heart rate right there and getting her pulse. Right, so we're finding out how fast the body is moving, right? That's what that, and how much work we're putting in. And that's what we're going to want to get. For our work, can we get a better return? Can we get something better back? Okay, now I'm going to tell you a little bit about knowing what you're doing and how important that is. Because in Indiana, where I went to school for college, right? I had a phenomenal coach, but he wasn't the only phenomenal coach that was there. And he was a top coach in the world for his 4-time Olympic coach. He's fantastic, Doc Councilman. So he was amazing. We had amazing sports there. So it wasn't just the swim team. The diving coach was the #1 diving coach in the world, Hobie Billingsley. And Hobie's a wonderful person. If you don't know him, he's so funny and so good at what he does. Right? And then we also had, on the track and field team, we had Sam Bell, right? And he was the coach for that. Again, #1 in the country, I believe. He was absolutely phenomenal. We had our soccer team was led by Jerry Yeagley. How can you get a better group of coaches? These are phenomenal coaches. And basketball team, Bobby Knight, who was always controversial, but definitely has greatness in his coaching. He's phenomenal as well. In fact, I taught his son, Pat Knight, in school when I was student teaching, and I taught him in a swimming class how to swim. And now he's a man and doing, from what I hear, very good at what he does. But yeah, so this is a great team. But one team that we had that wasn't so good at the time, and that was our football team. And it was amazing. They were dead last. Absolute dead last. All these other guys are top in the world, and our football team was dead last at that time. They were rated 102 out of 102 in USA Today. Last place. They were so bad that they snapped a losing streak from Northwestern University, was losing all the time. We snapped their losing streak after 2 years. We were the ones that went in and lost to them. So, right, and you know what? I used to work out with these guys in the weight room because the swimmers a lot of times didn't want to, lift a lot of weights and get strong. And I knew I was 149 pounds. So at 149 pounds, anywhere from 149 to 162, and I was 5'10.5", and I wore a size 24 bathing suit. So you can tell, and that was in college, right? And if you see pictures of me, I looked really big and strong because they did close-ups. And I was strong, but I wasn't very tall and very big compared to the athletes that I used to race, which would range normally from about 6'2" to 6'8", right? And so for me to win, I knew I needed to be strong. So I'd go in the weight room, and sometimes I'd do 2 rounds. So I'd go with the football players usually. And they used to they were really strong. And they worked really hard, except for what they also like to do is kind of talk kind of over on by themselves and tell jokes and things like this. So I wanted to really get strong, and I knew I wanted to be one of the top swimmers in the world, so I needed a strength train. So I'd go on a couple rounds. So while they were talking and joking around, I'd go with another group and start working with them, and I'd go back and forth. And I know these guys worked hard because I worked with them, and I was top 11 in the world at the time, and they weren't. They weren't. How can they work alongside with someone and actually do better in their lifting and still not be good at what they did? Well, one of the things is the coach, who is a wonderful man. I actually met him one time at Doc Councilman's house. He's just a great guy. Everybody loves this guy. But he's not great at that time, and I'm guessing he probably still isn't great at football. He used to punt. If you know anything about football, he used to punt on 3rd down consistently. Like every game, you get like 1 or 2 punts on 3rd down instead of taking all, and go to the 4th down and punt, which he just like a surprise or something. So we constantly lose because he didn't know exactly what to do and when to do it. Again, he didn't know exactly what to do and when to do it. So instead of being top in the world, they were last in the country. How is that possible? Again, your ideas and your time to carry those out. If you don't get better ideas, then you don't, right? Even if you have lots of time, you don't have anything to carry out. But if you've got a great idea and you're on your last day of life, you don't have any time to carry it out. So let's get these ideas now, right? And they always say in the business world, when the economy's down, build your business. So when the economy comes back, you'll have more to sell and more business to do. It's very difficult. It's easy to say, very difficult to do. But if you want to be great at something, right now, the pools are down. What should you do? Build your abilities. So when the pools come open, You can attack in a way you've never attacked before. So this will be a blessing to have this time if you learn and understand things that you never knew before, that you could take back to the pool and apply and start working on and to develop and get yourself better. So let's get into it here. I don't know if you knew this, but you have 3 energy systems. And we're not just training to compete here. We're training to progress. We're training to win. We're training to accomplish our goals, right? So we're not just training to compete. Training to compete means you're going back and forth in the pool and they let you into the meets, right? The coach lets you race because you attend to practice. But just because you attend a practice doesn't mean you're going to start beating your competition. Just because you do what everybody else does doesn't mean you get something different. You get the same thing. So you've got to, when you do that, you want to feel differently, think differently, act differently, and become, right? Remember the F tab from last time. Feel it, think it, act it, and become it. So we're going to start to progress like we've never progressed before. Much faster. And when we learn it for swimming, then we'll take it into our lives. We'll teach it to our children. We'll help everything around us. We'll be starting to progress, right? And that's really important. It's always important to me. I remember when I was a kid, I lived in a very remote location in Maine. And it was a vacation place. So in the summer, all the kids would go home. And when they went home, it was just me and a bunch of my 80-year-old friends. You know, that's right. That's who lived there. There's only a few families, and those families were elderly. So I'd go over, and if my folks were home when I got back from school, I'd go over and visit my friends, which were in their 80s, right? And I came back one time, and I told my dad, I said, you know, it's funny, but you know, Harold, he always seems to want to do the same thing. He says, yeah, older people, a lot of times they get set in their ways. I noticed that, right? They got set in their ways, and you didn't want to think differently. And I started to think, I said, you know, if I'm going to get set in my ways, because when I get older, I'm going to get more set in my ways, then my ways are going to be to progress. I'm going to be set in progression for the rest of my life. I don't want to be set in doing the same thing over and over again, and then expecting a different result, right? That's the Einstein's definition of insanity, I think, right? Doing things the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. I'm going to expect to continue to progress, keep climbing, getting better and better and better. And I'm not going to be comfortable with doing the same exact thing as I did before. You'll notice whenever you see my shows, they progress, they keep getting better and better. That's what I'm trying to do in life, is constantly get better, no matter what I do. So again, we're not just training to compete so we can race. We're training to progress, to make something happen, to get better and better. And what's the third one? Better. So these are the energy systems. You can see them feeding in here to this athlete that's running, right? And one of them is explosivity. What is explosivity? Now, I'm kind of that's one of my main focuses when I'm training in practice, is explosivity. And if you don't train those systems, then you are actually never going to be able to use those systems because you didn't build them. What is explosivity? Explosivity is really fairly simple. You use it very simply to explain it. It's if you were standing in the road and a bus was coming out at you, and you had to immediately jump out of the way of the bus, you wouldn't have time for the materials in your body to kind of circulate a little while. That you need that energy now. You've got to get out of that way. Otherwise, you're not going to make it, right? So you're going to leap out of the way. You can think of twitching. You can see I tend to twitch quite a bit, right? I think genetically more inclined to that, right? But a squirrel kind of twitches, right? They don't just kind of move slow. Why don't you see a squirrel doing this? Like, where's that cat? Because that's a dead squirrel. That's a squirrel that got eaten by the cat, right? The squirrels that went like this, they could look quickly. So humans can do that too, as you just saw me do, right? So that's explosivity. It's being able to twitch to make motion. So you have to train that to be able to use that. So I would use, right, and it lasts a very short time, the explosivity. And so what you want to do is you want to be able to train how to do that. That's what we teach in our energy systems program. How to train to become more explosive. You can use that in your starts. You can use that in your turns and quick energy bursts. I remember one time I was racing a guy I think it's from Clemson University, and he had told me, he says, he came up and he says, "Hey, John." And I said, "Yeah." And I got behind the block, and I wasn't feeling very well. I was allergic to milk. I had lactose intolerance, and I didn't know it at the time. It wasn't very popular. People didn't know about it so much. And so my stomach was hurting. So when I went into the race, I saw Doc Counselor. Hey, I said, "Hey, Doc, my stomach's not feeling too well." And he says, "Okay." He says, "Look, just stick with this guy and beat him at the end." Now, I don't know who it was. But he says, "Stick with him, beat him at the end." So, okay, no problem. Again, listen to the words. "Okay, no problem. I'll take care of it." So I got behind the block and I met this guy. This big guy came over to me. He says, "Hey, John Waldman." He says, "I think I remember you from Olympic trials last year." I said, I apologize. You got me. I don't know your name. I apologize." And he told me his name. And he says, "Didn't you swim in the 200 breaststroke?" I said, "Yeah, I swam the 100 and 200. He says, "Okay." He says, "I got 7th place in that race. How'd you do?" So I said, "Okay, well, I didn't even qualify for big finals. That was in in the second heat of the finals." He says, "Oh," he says, "good luck. I hope you do well today." I said, "Thank you. Good luck to you." Now, what did this guy do? He came up to me, and he thinks I'm shaking in my boots for this, right? And he said, "Oh, I was 7th place. You didn't do too well. Good luck. You're going to need it," type of thing. I always feel like this. If you walk past a bear, right, and he's in the cave there, and you make it by without him knowing it, for me, I think that would be a great thing that you walk past a bear and you made it by. I wouldn't go over, pick up a stick, run into the cave, and jab him with a stick. "Hey, I got by you." Would you? I'd just be happy I made it by. This guy decided he's going to pick up a stick and jab me with it. I'm the bear in this scenario, in case you didn't know, or a tiger, right? So, okay, so we start swimming, and all he did was get me to focus on him. Now, if you're not strong emotionally, then you might shiver and shake. To me, that means something totally different. What's he telling me? He's telling me he's frightened. He wouldn't try to dominate me with words, right? He'd try to dominate me with action otherwise. So he's telling me, "Oh, I'm going to beat you." I never tell somebody I'm going to beat them. I just try to beat them, right? Then they'll find out. It'll be clear. I'm not going to tell somebody. I'm going to do it. So anyway, I realized this guy obviously has some kind of emotional insecurity about this race coming up. Otherwise, he wouldn't have told me that. So we dove into the race, and I immediately started thinking about my tummy again because my tummy was hurting. And this, I don't even call it stomach anymore. I was concerned about my tummy, right? So I'm swimming along, and I kind of lost focus. I was thinking, "Wow, my stomach's hurting," and I'm swimming along. That's no way to race, is it? That's crazy. I'm not focused on the race. By the time I got under the flags on the 7th lap, it's a 25-yard pool, right? I'm on the far end. I've got 5 yards to go in that lap, and then another 25 yards to go. I met him at the flags. But guess what? He was going the other way. Holy cow, this guy's 10 yards ahead of me. I'm thinking, what did I say to Doc Councilman? I said, "Okay." Now, to me, my words are very important to me. I say them, I do them. My dad always taught me that. He says, "You say it and then you do it. And you say it and you do it, and you say it and you do it." He says, "That way you build a great reputation. First say it and then do it." So I told Doc Councilman, I said, "Okay." That to me is my word. And as far as, right, if your word is no good, then the way my dad told me, if your word's no good, neither are you to everybody else, right? Because your reputation is who you are to everybody else. And I told him, "Okay, so I'm going to do that." So now I'm, right, the guy's 7th in the country, which means he's not very far down on the list in the world. And I wasn't. But I said, "You know what? I'm not having that happen." So I took off, right? I had to swim 30 yards when he had to swim 20 yards. Any idea how that turned out? I won. I beat him by 4 seconds in 1 lap. I touched the wall. I congratulated him on a great race. I got out of the pool. I went over to Doc Councilman. The second time ever that I saw him crying on my whole career with him. And he's actually had tears coming down his eyes. His shirt was wet in 2 spots like this. whereas he'd had tears. And I said, Doc, what happened? I thought something terrible had happened. I've never seen anything like that before in my life. I said, well, what do you mean? You got incredible swimmers. He goes, I've never seen any. He says, how much energy do you have? And I said, okay. I said, I said I was gonna take care of it. And he says, well, how much energy do you have? And I said, as much as it takes. He says, I believe you. So to me, right, it's very important. Explosivity. What did I turn on? Right. I think I split in the last lap at that time, something like a low 11. And back then that was a really fast time. Today it's not even that slow, but back then it was a really fast time. And so I really wanted to win that race, and I pulled the trigger, right? So very important. Sorry about that. Let's see here. There we go. So that's explosivity. So it's just pulling the trigger. It doesn't last long, but you can hit it hard. The next thing is speed, general speed, like being fast at something. And then you have endurance, which is continuing on and on and on. Right? And we had a swimmer that had great endurance. This guy was from Brazil. And he was absolutely amazing. I remember one day we were watching him, he's doing butterfly. And Doc Councilman, as he's swimming, I look over, this guy's going, right, his name was Ricardo. And Ricardo just wouldn't stop. And so he was swimming. Now, he wasn't a super fast butterflyer for our team. He was like a 50, I think around a 5200 butterflyer, which we had guys that were down at like 46, things like this. So he wasn't super fast for us. However, we're watching him go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And then I look over at Doc Councilman, and he says, hey, John, he says, hold everybody up. So all the guys are practicing back and forth. We just held everybody. Okay, stop. Everybody's watching. Doc doesn't say anything. Just watch them go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. And we're all looking at him doing butterfly. He said, Doc, why are you stopping? I said, I want you to see something. He says, you all know Ricardo. You know he's never going to swim a race for this team. He came all the way up here from Brazil to train with Indiana University to be on our team. But he's never going to race. We all know that he's not fast enough to do that. Look at him work his heart out. Going back and forth and back and forth. What's he doing, Doc? Well, he's doing a 5,000 yard fly, time for fly, right? 5,000 yard fly for time. Wow. We're all sitting there, and he nonstop 5,000 yard fly for time. And that we all were very impressed with the fact that he says he's working his heart out. He knows, he's never going to race here, but look at him work. Look at how much effort he's putting in. Any of you world-class swimmers want to join him over there? None of us want to do that, right? Like, no. Got it. He says, watch this guy. This is not the amazing thing. He hasn't broken stroke once, which means he hasn't just taken a one-arm fly, just not once. He says, he's keeping going, but this is not the amazing thing. He says, the reason I want to stop you to show him is he hasn't gone any slower than a 53.9. And you guys know his fastest time in the 100 fly is 52.0. And he's repeating 53.9s over and over and over and over again in the butterfly. He says, how do you do that? He says, next time you have a question, guys, if you can make it through your training, if you can do that type of set, right? Or even more, if you can do it in a race and you can make it happen, ask yourself, can I do that? And if you have the question, just think about Ricardo. There's no chance of racing. Look at him work his heart out. I hopped out at the end. I had to congratulate him. I was like, wow, Ricardo, that was amazing. He goes, what? I said, you just did 5,000 fly for time, nonstop, and you killed it. Oh, he said, it was no problem. He said, I could have gone another 1,000, no sweat. Unbelievable. He goes, just set it and forget it, man. Just go. Holy cow. Is that endurance? That's phenomenal endurance. So we now know what explosivity is. We know what speed is, right? And we know, right, if you're not fast enough to get out there. So a lot of times when we think about racing, I always ask my swimmers, when does the race begin? In the event, during the event you're swimming, when does the race begin? And it's normally about halfway through. What the great swimmers do is they get you out. They bring out, come on, come on, come on, come on. Great, come on out. Okay, halfway through, are you ready to race? Wait a minute. I thought we were racing. No, we're just getting started. Now it's time to play the game. Now it's time to race. That was just getting out there into position. So first you position yourself in a race. And then once you've positioned yourself, then you pull the trigger and you start the race. The race is totally different than positioning yourself. If you didn't get in position, then you may not be able to race. Right? It's like you didn't get to the point where you need to get started. You'll see a lot of swimmers going out super fast in the beginning, and I used to do that. And then they don't have anything left to race with. You have to be smart. You have to know when I'm pulling the trigger, and you have to train to have that energy, to have that explosive burst of energy at the end. What do you have to do in practice? It should be really clear. Right? You've got to get yourself tired, and then you've got to override it with incredible energy. The energy's coming from another location anyway, so you're good to go because there's 3 systems. See the 3 tubes? So you switch tubes, and you explode. And that's what I did to that guy that I was telling you about from Clemson. Poke the bear. That's very funny. Anybody pokes the bear with you? Don't focus on it too hard, because you already know they're in trouble. They shouldn't be in the race if they've got to talk it through. Here we go. Next one. Now here's the 3 energy systems a little deeper. We have the explosive system, right? Which we just talked about. That's called adenosine triphosphate phosphocreatine, or ATPPC. So that's our nice name for it. Explosive system works, right? And now you know what that's about. We have the lactic acid system right here. That's where you get your speed from, right? And that is the anaerobic, an meaning without, aerobic meaning oxygen, without oxygen. So it's burning sugar, which is glycolysis, without oxygen, right? So that's the anaerobic or lactic acid system, because it leaves a waste product, which is called lactic acid. And that makes your muscles burn and tight like that. So when you're feeling that, that's lactic acid in there, lactic acid buildup. And then we have the oxygen system. The oxygen system is the endurance, right? Called aerobic glycolysis. Again, glycolysis, burning sugar, aerobic with oxygen. So you can see these 3 here on the top, right here, right? On the very top, let me get them in closer. On the orange and green section, there's a reason why it's orange and green. It's color-coded, right? But on the orange and green system, that energy is flowing in, right, from the explosive system. And the pink line, the pink tube coming in, is pumping in speed. And in the blue line, that's where you're getting the oxygen system going in, and that's pumping in your endurance. So this one, you could almost call that one Ricardo, right? He owned that. He didn't stop, and he could go pretty fast. The problem was he didn't have enough pink. And he had almost no orange and green. All right, so see how that works? So now you can say in the middle of your set, there should be a combination when you're racing, and if it's going to happen when you're racing, then you got to train it. Right? You got to build it if you're going to use it. Okay, so really when it comes down to it, the more you learn about energy systems, your coach will never have to tell you to go hard again. You'll understand it. You'll know why, what you're trying to get out of it, and you'll know when to pull a trigger. So as you go through our energy systems programs, right? We have actually the welcome pack. I think hopefully you took the welcome pack. The welcome pack in the last couple days has been complimentary. It's normally $49. You can watch it online. You can take it, right? It's normally $49, and now you get it for free. Do it today if you haven't already. It's the FM Energy Systems welcome pack. Take that. That's fantastic. And that'll give you a basic. But from there, there's 12 other courses that help you totally understand. So when you get back in that practice, you can just kill it. And I know, by the way, your competition, some of it, is going to have this. I can tell you because we're teaching it to them. So get yourself in that program. It'll really help. Let's go to the next step here. One of the things, and this will give you a little taste of what we do to help you understand, is number 1 is these are your seasonal training phases right here. Right, so this is a visual to understand. So right, you're coming in here, and we're gonna look at this, and I'll show you how this works. This is actually for the endurance system. This is how you build your endurance, right? So you enter in through here, right? And that's called build up. And then you exit out through here. That's taper. Normally build up lasts a couple weeks, right? That's 2 weeks long. And on the other side, taper lasts a couple weeks usually. So that's 2 weeks long, right? And then here you have these different phases of training where you need to focus on certain things. If you don't focus there on them, then you don't build them. And if you don't build them, then you can't use them. Remember again, if you don't know them, then you can't focus on them. If you can't focus on them, you can't build them. And if you can't build them, you can't use them. So what we're doing is what's called shore leverage right now. We're setting it up, right? So right now we're setting up our understanding of it. And then we're going to go use it, shore, S-U-R. Set it up, then use it, and then gain the return. So we're setting it up right now. So this time that you're closed in and you decided to look in on FM Facebook Live, you're going to get information right now that's going to help you set it up. When you get back in the pool, you can use it. But if you were in the pool right now, you wouldn't be setting it up. You'd be trying to use whatever you had before. But we're setting up something brand new. Something better than ever before. So we're going to set it up, then we're going to use it when we get back to practice, and then we're going to gain the return in our races. Because our races are going to be better, we're going to get a bigger paycheck, so to speak, from our work. All right, so this area here, right, we're going to talk about those 4 phases now to give you some information on them. This is called a phase breakout. This looks even cooler than the last one, right? Here's this one. That looks pretty cool. This one really helps you understand it. So here, build up. Why are you doing build up? Because if you don't, you're going to get injured, most likely, right? It's injury prevention. Some coaches, they just cut that off, or swimmers. When the coach tells you, hey, we're going to build it up, no, they got to go fast. They got to race right in the first 2 weeks. You're starting to go really hard. You're supposed to get little by little by little harder so your body can adapt, so you prevent injuries. If you're not involved in injury prevention, you are going to be involved in injury management, right? You're not going to drive a race car as fast as you can for years without ever changing the tires. Your body is made of material, just like the tires on a car. Different material, but it's material. And it's got wear and tear. And if you don't prevent injuries and build it up, and you just stress it very, very quickly, right, you're going to get injuries. So you either prevent injuries, or on the other side, if you, right, and you still could get injuries, but if you don't prevent injuries and do injury prevention, then you're going to do injury rehabilitation. Now, your body almost never gets back as strong as it was to start with. I highly recommend injury prevention, right? Because then you're on the other, so they're both called under the category of injury management. So high performance athletes generally have to do some form of injury management. So you're either going to be preventing, you're going to be, right, rehabbing, or both. And normally it's both, so I don't want more of it on the prevention side, right? Because you don't want injuries and then have to repair them. The repair work isn't as good as the original. Okay, you can make it better, but it's normally not going to get back to where it was brand new. Okay, here we go. Now, distance. Take a look up here. So we're injury preventing. Then on these 2 phases right here, we're building endurance. Remember what we're talking? That's Ricardo. He was fit, but he did it all through here. So he never got his speed. He never got his explosivity. Do you notice how these are wider than these? Even in a sprinter. And that's the big question a lot of. Even in a sprinter, it takes more time to build mitochondria than it does for the other 2 to build speed and explosivity. Now, that doesn't mean during this phase that you're not going to start out building speed and explosivity. You are, but right? So you need that distance training. That's the first phase. So you go from build up to distance training, right? And during that phase, that time, right, of your season, as you pass through that phase, you want to focus on what Ricardo did. It was going and going and going and going and not stopping. And if you do stop, you're going to get into what's called interval. And you can only stop for 5 to 15 seconds. That's it. Here, you're not going to stop. It's don't stop. This one is called short rest. So you take a little break, then you go again. Take a little break, right? If I give you a little bit of break, does that mean you can go a little faster, right? right? So when you get in here, even though you have distance set still, your focus, so you can build it, so you can then use it, right? Your focus is going to be on these short rest things. Here's, right, and do like examples. That's what we do in that whole training program. So I don't want to kill you with that right now, but right, so you get distance training and interval training, both support endurance, building endurance. Now we're going to go over and we're going to look at repetition. Let's bring this out a little bit. And now we're going to really focus. Again, we're doing it all through here, but we're really going to focus on building speed and explosivity during these two phases. All right, so now we're in the repetition phase. Most people think sprint is the hardest. Repetition is the hardest, right? That football coach might have thought that. That's confusion. Repetition, getting rest. How much rest? We're talking about 1 to 5 minutes between each bout of exercise. How fast can you go if I give you 1 to 5 minutes rest before you go again? It's like racing, you just explode, boom, right? So it's high heart rates, things like this, all right? And we'll tell you exact heart rates in the program, okay? Sprinting is normally, you're going to get less rest, right? So it's going to be somewhere between 20 and 30 seconds rest. This one here, the blue one, you're going to get 1 to 5 minutes rest. You tell very easily what's supposed to be the most aggressive right here. It's like racing. Then sprints, right? Like let's get back in there. Like 5 to, right? Let's say you do very simple, 10 25s. Okay, that's easy. So if you did 10 25s, how much rest did you get? That's going to be really important. So we're going to talk about that in a second, because that defines the set and which system it's building, what type of training it is, and which system it's building. Right? So you have the sets, then you have the training, and then you have the system that it's training. Okay? So this over here is, again, for speed and explosivity, these two. Right? And then over here is your taper, where your body rests and reduces, right? We reduce and taper. We reduce the yardage and allow your body to heal. Right? So now it's starting to heal. So it's preparation for your racing. I have some people say, my team doesn't taper, or I don't need to taper. Okay. The rest of us do. Anybody that's really great, you have to taper. Right? And you want to understand taper. Taper is a very specific thing. We do whole programs just on understanding taper. Right? It's a science and it's an art, and you want both of them together. And we have some people they call, hey, because we do a lot of workouts. We design workouts for people all over the world, and teams and coaches, right, and college coaches and things like that. So we design their workouts, and so what happens? They'll call us up and say, hey, can you? I haven't been with you, but can you design a taper for me? Well, we could design a taper. But our taper is tapering off of our information. So what we did, so we know what we built up. We know the things we did to leverage and to gain that endurance. We know how much buildup we did. We know how much endurance we did. We know exactly what we're trying to do as a mitochondria count, right? And over here, and increasing that. And then we also know speed and explosivity, what we built, and we're tapering off of what you just did. So can I build a taper for you that not knowing what you did for your training? No, I can, but it's not the right thing to do because we don't know what you did. So it's very important to understand that. So this will give you just a little taste of what we do in our energy system. This is one little tiny piece of it. If you don't know this stuff and you go back into practice and you have no idea, just the coach puts something up, and then you don't know how to dig out and get this to the sets you need to, I think you're a high-risk athlete. And high-risk athletes don't normally progress too far, right? Other people beat them because they know what they're doing, even if they may not be as athletic and talented. I mean, I had plenty of shortcomings, and I had some really big benefits. But I played the game of understanding. I went to counseling to understand. This guy was the most knowledgeable person about a subject that I've ever met. I mean, by far, not even close. And so he has, and he was great personality, great to talk to. I want to go to him to understand if I'm, going to race against guys that are much bigger, much stronger. What do I need to know to get this done? Because just because you're a certain size doesn't mean you don't want to win. Right? And so you have to do, so I figured if I knew more, I'd beat him no matter what. And that generally was the case. Okay, so right now, here we are, we're at one of our specials. We got 2 today. First one. This is called, right here, I don't know if you can see it well. This is called an FM in-water training planner. And this is part of our new FM Insider track coming out. It's not out yet. Just wait. It's going to have incredible tools for swimmers and coaches. Right? It's going to have our programs in there, the welcome back. It's phenomenal. Right? We're building it now. But right now you can try it for free. So what you need to do if you want, put swim@fluidmechanics.net and say FM in-water training planner. I want it. And then here, what you have to put in there is you're going to have to put in your event. Put in, right, the distance of the event, like 100 free, right? And then say short course yards, short course meters, long course meters. You choose your course, right? It doesn't do IMs. Anybody that says they can help you with that, actually, this may do IMs. Another program of ours doesn't do IMs, the time splits. If somebody tells you they can split your times in an IM and they don't know you, forget it. So this is generic. But this one here, right, we need the date you're starting your training on, and we're going to need your target race date. Okay? So again, we need your event, the course, start date, and the date you're going to race. Try this out. You can try it right now. And if you don't know the dates, you might say, I'm going to start training on September 15th, and I'm going to end on March 15th, and you're going to get pretty close, and they're going to send that to you right now. And what it's going to do, it's going to give you dates on where you need to focus on build-up, distance, interval, repetition, sprint, and taper. That, I think, is incredible. And they're going to be able to do it in seconds and send it to you. Nobody in the world has this program. We built it. So we're the only ones that have it. And then they're going to email it to you. So send in that for that right now if you're interested in it. It's a phenomenal program. And again, that's going to be accessible through the FM Insider track, or Inside Track, right? Here we go. The right way to train. Right? We're talking about you're going to know the right way to train. Here it is. It's really straightforward. You need to get the right heart rate or intensity. Let me zoom in for you. Right heart rate for the right amount of time. Right? How long you go in that bout before you stop for a rest. With the right amount of rest. In the right phase of the season. The 4 R's. Again, you might want to write this down. Right? Or take a picture of it or something. Get the right heart rate for the right amount of time with the right amount of rest in the right phase of season. If you don't, now where are the phases? Where would you find them? Here's where you find them, right here. Boom, there's your phases. That's the dates of the phases. And over here, there's the breakout of the phase. Right? There's the dates of each one of those sections you just saw. So if you don't email now, I think that's, right? You're not going to get that information. I think you want to get that information. And here, you want to understand what you got to do, right? To get that done. So we want to get all these things, right? Get the right heart rate for the right amount of time, with the right amount of rest, at the right phase of season. Now this is a phenomenal, we got a lot of great things today. So here it is. I feel like I'm saying that over and over again, but there's a lot of amazing things here. Remember, Doc Houseman was a doctor of exercise physiology, which we call energy systems, which you call in-water training. This is my statement on it. But I've seen quite a bit in the world of swimming. I've been swimming since I was 9 years old in racing. I'm 57 now today while I'm saying this right on this program. And I've been involved in studied swimming from the day I started till today, and I'm continuing on. And I'm constantly doing that. This is possibly the most valuable tool I've ever seen or has been ever developed for swimming. It is a 1 page, and it takes like 4 books. And any of you guys know PJ, he's my dad, called Papa John, right? No, he doesn't make pizza. Well, he makes pizza, but pretty good, right? But he right? Because I'm John, he's Papa John. And so if this makes sense, he took 4 books, major books of energy systems, and he crushed them. He read them all, he understood them all, he put them all together, and he did this. And I formatted and did that part of it, and he just crushed them all together. So he and I worked on this whole program, understanding it, and he crushed it. And this is probably, in my opinion, the most valuable tool for training in the world of swimming by far that I've ever seen. Because what it does is it tells you exactly where to focus, and you put those dates that you found right up here in the top, right? And you know what to focus on. See, it's even color-coded. If you got a purple season or phase and you got a purple set, guess what? That's where to focus, nowhere else. That's what you're there for that day. If it's a pink season and right phase of season, pink set, focus there. And guess what it gives you? It gives you the right heart rate for the right amount of time with the right amount of rest. It tells you right inside the box. That's what you got to do. The right heart rate for the right amount of time with the right amount of rest. So that guides it. This is called the FM Energy Systems Training Guide. Don't miss this next offer. You ready? You got your email ready? Here it is. Put on an FM Insider for today. Right? We're going to give a complimentary, right? This is normally a charged thing. It's a complimentary FM live Zoom session. It's going Wednesday, May 6th, this Wednesday at 4 o'clock. Want to join that session? Send in right now. Say, I want to do it. If you've got Zoom, you got to be able to connect with Zoom. And this is on using the FM Energy Systems chart, and I'm going to show you how to use it. Then when you go back to practice, man, the game's going to be over because you're going to know every set at every point of the season exactly what heart rates you need to get. Okay, send that to swim@fluidmechanics.net. Swim@fluidmechanics.net. Put FM Insider. I want it. Okay, next one. And by the way, if you have friends that you want to get in there or teammates, call them up, send them a message. If they send that now and they want to attend that class, that way you're helping your team because they'll all know what's going on in the practice. Right? Again, it's about your coach's practice and getting more out of it. Right? Have them join that session that you can have them, even if they're not watching Facebook Live, tell them to watch this. You know, this is going to be recorded. Just have them send that in to swim@fluidmechanics.net, and we'll allow them in. I think there's a limit on how many people can get into that meeting, but have them do that. And as it comes in, it's going to be first come, first serve, and we're going to get you scheduled in. Okay, today's takeaways. Right? First of all, your 3 energy systems you learned about. Right? We've got what? The explosive system, the lactic acid system, and the oxygen system. That's for building, right? That we're going to be using that, right, to provide us with energy for explosivity, speed, and endurance. We started to learn how to break down the seasonal phases. And there's different sections that you go through in your training cycle. And then we learned the right way to train, which is the 4 R's. Get the right heart rate for the right amount of time with the right amount of rest in the right phase of the season because it changes. And that's what you need to know. And that's what this chart does for you. And that's what we're going to be starting to go over in that Zoom meeting. Okay, let's look at a few questions that we commonly get, right, about this. So first one is from a parent. Our coach makes up the workout. So we get this all the time, right? So how would my son use this information, right? So basically, right, your coach's practice is like a template for you to work within, right? They're putting it out there. It's like a palette, and you paint what you do inside that practice, if it makes sense. Just because everyone's having chicken for dinner doesn't mean we're all going to cook it the same, right? So he's putting chicken out. The question is, how do you want to cook that chicken, right? Now, if you know what you're doing, you'll be able to cook it the way you want and eat it the way you want. If you don't know what you're doing, you got to eat what they serve. It's up to you. It's about choice. It's about control. Right? It's about independence, knowing what you're doing versus having somebody else serve it to you. Right? So this way you're starting to understand, like, how do I get what I need, and already knowing what you need out of this workout that's on the board. And these are very important, right? So you need to know those 4 R's. If you don't know those 4 R's, and that's where that chart comes back in, the one we're going to do on Zoom. If you don't know those 4 R's and where to hit practice, then you're kind of a goner, if that makes sense. You're hoping that you get what you can out of it. But if you do that, you're going to exact every time. You're going to be building and putting bricks on the wall. When you watch that show, right? You're going to be putting a brick on the wall every practice. In fact, multiple bricks on the wall. You're going to be building your different energy systems every practice, instead of just going back and forth in the pool doing endless laps. Right? You're going to put in, right? And it's not the coach's, right, job to get you to get more on the workout. It's your job to know you need to be the swimming expert. The coach needs to be the coaching expert. He puts up that workout. He does a great job designing it. You've got to extract what you need from it. If you don't know what you're doing, you're not a swimming expert, then guess what? It's going to be hard to extract by guessing all season long on every set. What's the chances of that ever happening? Okay, so if this, the next one is, at my team practices, the coach doesn't specify how hard to swim. It's always, this is from a swimmer, it's always just go harder. What should I do? Okay, well, come to the session on Zoom, then you'll know exactly what to do, right? So you do the Zoom session, you'll know exactly the 4 R's and what to hit, if this makes sense. And so each set that you'll do will have a purpose. I totally dislike doing things that I don't get something from, something out of. I don't like to do something and there's no possible return. To me, it's a waste of time. Remember the 2 things, your ideas and your time to carry them out. So I don't have time to mess around with things that don't help me get where I want to go. There's only so much time in life. I want to get to the areas that have goals and dreams in. I don't know about you, but my dreams are very important to me. And I think it would be an insult to think your dreams are any less important to you than mine are to me. That's why I want to give you this information so you can start to get and move towards your dreams. Right? It's tough when only a few people know the game. It's great when you're one of them. Okay. Here's a coach. A lot of times say, how can I get access to the tools, right, that you're just demonstrating? Well, in June, right, we're going to be opening the FM Inside Track for the first time ever. It's going to give you our tools, like the workout design. You're going to get it right there. You can do it over and over again. Right? Swimmers are going to get that too. They can do it so they understand exactly where, and individualize. All the workouts from the teams can be individualized. For each swimmer can get exactly what they need. If they're, depending on their event that they're training for, it should be a little bit different what they're focusing on. Right? So for instance, and this is where Ricardo kind of fell down, is he didn't know that he needed certain areas to really dig in. He thought if he just went longer and longer and longer and longer, somehow you get fast enough to someday race for Indiana. That wasn't happening because he didn't know which areas to hit. He didn't have any speed. He needed to get speed. He had a lot of endurance. He needed to build speed and he needed to build explosivity. Okay, so that's going to contain all those tools. The things that we're building into that are amazing. Wait till you see that come out. That should be hopefully in June, that we're going to have that all finished and up for everyone to try and start working in. And there's educational programs in there. There's all kinds of like race map tool. There's all kinds of stuff in there. Okay, and then so you can get that online tools membership, and it's going to be super inexpensive. I can't believe that they're making it like really cost effective for everybody to have all these tools. Animations, new animations that we've never had before, they'll all be in there, right? Okay, great. So hopefully if you have questions on this session, please feel welcome to email in, again, swim@fluidmechanics.net, and we'll try to answer some of those questions. Sometimes we get a lot of questions, but please feel welcome to email them in. We'll try to answer them as well as possible and as quickly as possible. All right? Okay, next week, we're going over FM triangulation and showing you how to make major progress as you target and you do what's called target training. So right, tune in next week. Again, we're going to be going into what's called, right, it's called FM triangulation. It's fantastic. And it'll help you understand exactly how to start training and what rate you need to train at. So that's really great. So thanks for joining us. I hope you liked today's show. Right, share it with your friends. Don't forget to visit our Discovery Center and watch out for the next events that are coming up, because we've got lots of events coming up. And yeah, we'll see you next time on FM Facebook Live.